So what they did is they gave us the data. I mean, I also worked on this. So what they did is they gave us this data. This is niche technology project. Okay. So they gave us the data and they told us to implement the conditional formatting based on these columns, these formulas, these colors. Okay. But before that, what they did is this is the problem statement that we have. And before attempting the problem statement, you have to actually do the data modeling part. So for data modeling part, they gave us the data and in the Excel sheet, and they gave us this diagram. You see this? This is the diagram that they told us to implement first. So that means you have to actually go to each and every table. You have to understand which column is connected to what, and then you have to connect it. If you see here carefully, they have also mentioned the columns here on the right hand side, which column is connected to what, which column is connected to what. So like this, you have to connect those columns, then only you will be actually able to attempt those questions. That is how the questions are asked. Clear with this?
Praful, in this, all four table are connected with solid line. That is a active connection,
Yes, there
right?
is yeah, because if you see data, Anurag, so they gave the data in Excel. See, this is the data that we had received. See, sales, targets, products, region. Okay. Now they have given us the relationship and they want us to prepare this report. Now I'll give you the explanation of this also.
But
This is the
aren't we have
yeah.
only one active connection at a time?
See, one active connection between two tables, Anurag. Here you have how many active connections per table? One. Between two
Okay,
tables at a time, there has to be only one. So see, this one line is between this and this. This one line is between this and this. This one line is between this and this. Two tables I'm talking about. So between region and sales, you have only one solid line, right? Between sales and product, you have one solid line. Between product and
okay,
target, you have one solid line. That's what I meant that day.
yep,
Okay.
got it.
Between
I
two
thought
tables.
only
No,
one
no, no.
per table.
No, no,
Yep,
no.
got it.
Yeah, between two tables, I said, right? Between two tables, you can have only one active relationship. That means between two tables, there will always be one solid line. There can be any number of inactive relationships. Okay. So as I said, this is how you have to create the modeling. Once this is done, this is what you have to prepare. In this case, if you see this product name and region name, so the question was a bit tricky because if you see your product name is here and your region name is here, and the data that they are talking about, this target USD, booked, forecast, this is all coming from the sales table. Yeah, sorry, or the target table and the sales table. Yeah, from both the tables that thing is coming up. So first thing is you have to connect it, then only you will be able to retrieve it. That is the importance of those relationships. That is the importance of modeling. Okay. I had received one more project. I haven't given it to anyone as of now. That was even more trickier. Is that test assignment? Yeah. So in this case, if you see this, this is what they gave us. Okay. They gave us one CSV file. Okay. They gave us one JSON file. They gave us one sales file. Okay. What they expected from this is that we load CSV file, we load JSON file, we load sales file, and then out of that we create the relationship. And based on that relationship, they expected us to create some visualizations. See, this was another question. So this is the data that you have to load, one from Excel, two tables from Excel, one from JSON, one from CSV, and then you have to create the report. And specifically they said that they need this visualization, the gauge visualization in the report. This was the question. Okay, so when it comes to data modeling, if anyone wants to test it, these are the type of questions that they can actually give it to you. Clear with this? Hello?
Yep, yes.
Yeah, that is how the questions are asked, Anurag. Okay, so first modeling, then solving those type of questions is usually the what they do. Okay.
So for Power BI, we always expect first data set, so some kind of test first, and then there will be the interview.
Depends on company to companies. In some companies like TCS, they directly take the interview and take you. In certain companies, like I said, niche and some product based companies, some startups, what they do is they give you data, they tell you to prepare a report. If they like the report, then they call you for the next round. That's what also we have seen it.
Okay, got it.
Okay, anyways, moving on. So we'll study the next function. So in that last session, we studied the lookup value function, which was used for inactive relationship, and we have seen the use relationship keyword, which is used for inactive relationship. So whenever I say use relationship, always remember you are calculating a measure. Whenever I say lookup value, that means you are calculating a new column. As simple as that. Now, apart from that, if I want to get something based on active relationship, for that I have another keyword which is called as related. Okay, so let me show you the related keyword from here. So I will load two sheets. One is product, the other is orders. So in from Excel also you can load the data, and if you have load two tables and they have one common column, Power BI automatically detects that relationship and connects the two tables. Okay. For example, if you see, this is my orders table which has product ID and quantity, P underscore IDT and quantity, and I have this products table. So this products table has P underscore ID, name and price. These are the two tables that I have. You can see these two tables, they have P underscore ID as the common table. So when I click on this and when I click on load button, the data will be loaded, and another important thing is the tables will be automatically connected. Okay, so Power BI has this capability where it can auto detect the relationship. Okay, so let's go to the model tab. When you go to the model tab, you'll see the relationship between orders and product table. You can see the relationship is between one to many. That means the product ID is unique. It is appearing only one time in the product table, but same P underscore ID is being repeated again and again in the orders table. That is why it has the many side. Okay. So if I go to the data tab and if I show you the data of orders, this is my orders data. So which has P underscore ID and quantity. Yeah, this is my data. Then the next is my orders, my product table. So if you go to products table, you will only see the respective products and their respective prices. Okay. So in this case, I have this one to many relationship. Now what I want to do is I have this list of orders which customers have placed it to us. Now I have product ID and I have the quantity. Now what I actually want to do is I want to calculate the total for each and every order that is present here. Now in order to calculate the total, I would need the unit price. But if you see, the unit price is actually stored here in this column. So in order to get the unit price, first I will have to get the unit price column here, and then only I will be able to calculate it. So in such cases where I want to bring the column from another table, okay, in active relationship, then in that case I can use the keyword related. So with the help of related keyword, I can bring the data from another table. An important aspect to remember in case of related keyword is that your related keyword will always work on the many side in one-to-many relationship. For example, this is the many side order table which has PID being repeated multiple times. So if I pick up the PID from here and if I go to products table, I will get only one value. That is why it will. But if I go to products and if I write related, I will not get any suggestions or anything. Why? Because from the product ID, if I search orders table, I will get multiple product IDs. For example, in this product ID, you can see one is being repeated multiple times, two is being repeated multiple times, and so on. So that is why this related keyword, it will always work on the many side in one-to-many relationship. But for one-to-one, it will work from both sides, and of course in many-to-many, it will not work. Okay. So let me show you the related keyword. So related keyword usually works in the column. So I'll click on new column and I will just type the related keyword. So here the keyword, I want to get the price column value. I'll say price equal to, and the keyword here is related. So when you type related, you can see list of all the columns that are connected, that are present in the products table. So you can see name, price, product ID, all these things. So I'll just select price from here. I'll close the bracket and I'll click enter. So since we are at the many side and related keyword is used at the correct end, that is why it is giving me the price suggestion. Okay. But if I try to use the related keyword in the products, let's say if I want to get the quantity, I will never get that. Yeah. So if I try to use the related keyword, see what happens here. Related, nothing. See, if I try to type orders, nothing. If I try to type quantity, nothing. You will not get any suggestions, because if it picks up the PID from here and if it tries to search it in the orders table, it is bound to get multiple entries. So when you are about to get the multiple entries, then in that case, this will not make sense. Okay. So in that case, we use the related keyword on the many side. Okay. Okay, so now we have the price in this orders table. So if I want to calculate the total, I have quantity, I have price, so I can multiply it and I can get it. Okay. So here and just go to orders table. I will say new column. I'll just say quantity into price. Clear with this? Any questions? Usually the likely use case of related keyword is for direct relationship. As I said, this related keyword is exactly similar to your lookup value, but your lookup value is used for inactive and your related is used for active relationship. One of the likely use case which I told you is if I want to bring one column in from another table, then in that case I can use the related keyword to bring it here and then I can use it. Okay. So for such cases we use it. Sometimes, like I said, I showed you one assignment, right? So in that assignment, the question was that region name column was in another Excel sheet table and the product name was in another Excel sheet. So what we had to do is we had to create, we had to use related keyword to bring them under one table. And from there we had to calculate it. That's what we did. So from there we actually calculated it and we stored it. Okay. So that is how the related keyword is used. Clear with this? Any question?
Sir.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so that was the related keyword. Now coming back to database, in databases we saw the import and direct query mode. So obviously we can load the data from import, we can load the data from direct query, that is fine. But in case of import and direct query, what we actually saw was we were actually trying to load the entire table data. But sometimes you're not interested in actually loading the entire data. Sometimes you're only interested in loading a certain specific subset of the data from the database. So in that case, what we do is we write SQL queries. So SQL stands for structured query language. Structured query language, you can assume that it is a language which is actually used to communicate with your database. So be it creating any rows, updating any rows, deleting any rows, or selecting few rows for your report purpose, you can do all of those activities with the help of SQL. Now, where to write this SQL? So for writing the SQL, I have a window here in the connector only from which I can write my SQL queries. Okay. So let's say if I want to load only the 10 rows, the top 10 rows from the Oracle database, how to write the query. So for that, I will have to write the query in the connector itself. So let me show you. So here, let me select Oracle, click on connect. Local host, this is what we have seen. Now the SQL part. So the SQL part which you actually want to write, you can write it under the advanced option. So these are the two options which are available to you. So whatever SQL you want to write, you can write or paste your SQL statement here. And command timeout is the execution time of that SQL statement. So this is a maximum time which you can specify during which your SQL command should be executed. If it takes more than that, then in that case, it will give you an error. Okay, so I'll give you just an example. So when you want to write any SQL query, what you have to do is you have to just write the different SQL syntaxes. Now, as Power BI developer, we are never going to create anything. We are never going to delete anything or update anything because data source is not our responsibility. So as the end user, I'm going to just fetch the data from the database. So in order to fetch the data from the database, you'll have to write the select query. Now, let's say if I have an employees table, which I've seen yesterday, and if I want to get the data from that employees table, so in that case, I can write the query. So the keyword to get the data from the database is select. And then afterwards, if you want to get all the columns, then you have to write star. Then you have to write the keyword from. And afterwards, you have to specify the table from which you want to get the data. Yeah. So select star from employees is the key, is the SQL that you're going to write to get all the columns and all the rows present in this employee table. Okay. And in case if you want to get only certain filter data, then SQL gives you one provision like your DAX where you can apply filter. Here, in order to filter the data, I can use the where keyword. So in the where keyword, I specify the column on which I want to apply the condition, and based on that, my data gets filtered. Okay. So for here, I want to just filter the data based on rows, and I just want to get the top 10 rows. Okay. So here, there is a variable which stores the row number. So I'll just say row number, and in here I will say less than equal to 10. That is my query which I have written here in the command timeout. I know this query will hardly take 2 minutes. So I'll just specify 2 minutes here and I'll click on OK. If everything works out well, when I click on OK, this query will be actually executed and the result will be returned. If your query is wrong, it will return us the error saying something is missing, this is missing. So you have to fix that SQL query and then you have to load the data. As you can see, I have loaded the 10 rows from this employees table. You can see 100 to 109. These are the 10 rows that I have loaded from the Oracle. If you feel everything is fine, you can click on load and you can load the data. Okay, so that is how you can write your SQL queries, and based on that SQL queries you can load the data. Now, in case of SQL query, your SQL queries exactly work like your filters, which you have seen in the DAX functions. So I have prepared some sample queries, which I'm going to share it with you. Before any interview, go through these queries. These queries are enough to explain the end user how these queries are working or how the data is being pulled. So for practice, what you can do is you can go to get data, you can select Oracle, you can click on advanced option, you can select import, and you can put these queries from here to there, and it should work. An important thing is, if you would have seen properly, I didn't write the semicolon in the end. So usually SQL statements are closed with the help of semicolon to complete it. But in case of Power BI SQL statements, we do not end the statements with semicolon. So that is one point that you should remember. Now, similar to I fetch the data from the employees table, like certain specific row numbers, I can apply the filter on columns also. So for example, let's say I have a numeric column called as employee ID and I want to filter the data. So in that case, I can specify the clause like this: select star from employees where employee underscore ID equal to 101. In this case, I have not enclosed the data in single quotes or double quotes because the employee ID data type is numeric in nature. Wherever you will see the non-numeric data, there only you will apply the double quotes or single quotes. Okay, similar to this, if I want to filter multiple values, then I have the in clause here. So I can write select star from employees where employee ID is in between 101, 102, 1110. Okay, the next is, if I want to get the list of employees with salary between 10,000 to 15,000, then in that case I have a keyword called as and between. So I can use and also, and I can use between also. So when you use between, it will look for all the employees whose salary is between 10 to 15,000 and it will return it to. So this was regarding the numeric. Now coming to text, like I said, if you are using any text column for filtering, you will have to use single quotes or double quotes here. So let's say if I want to get the list of employees whose first name is Nina. So in that case, I write select star from employee where first name is Nina. So in this case, it is actually going to return me list of all the employees whose first name is Nina. Okay. And if I have multiple names, then I can use the in clause, and within the round brackets, I can specify their names, comma separated in single quotes. It also works. Similar to this, you can also apply regular expressions. For example, if I want to get list of all the employees whose first name is starting with N, okay, in that case, I can write like this: first name like N%. So this percent means 0 or more characters. So that means the first character has to be N. After that, any number of characters are expected. So in that case, it will look for only the I would say employees whose first name is starting with N. So the query is select star from employee where first name like N%. Exactly similar to this, if I want to get the list of employees ending with something, for example, if I want to get list of all the employees ending with A, then in that case the percent comes first and A comes last. So this percent means 0 or more characters. So what I'm saying here is any number of characters can come forward, but the last character always has to be the A character. Okay, and similar to this, if I have the in between value, for example, if I want to search something like clerk in between, so I add percent to the start and percent to the end. Okay, so let me show you an example of these queries, because these queries are important. So I'll just select this first name query, I'll copy it from here, I'll select get data, I'll select more, select Oracle, click on connect. Now localhost, advanced options. In the advanced option, I'll paste this SQL query and I'll click on OK. So it will get list of all the employees whose first name is starting with N. I click on OK. See, So usually these SQL statements are used to reduce your data set size. Okay, what happens is when you have huge amount of data, okay, then in that case loading unnecessarily the entire table makes no sense. So in that case what you do is you try to restrict it, and then you try to load only the data which you need for reporting. So in that case you have to write the SQL statement. That is why SQL is asked in the interviews also. They want someone who can at least write the basic SQL queries. Okay, you can see in the first name you see all the employees whose first name is starting with N. Okay, I click on load. This is done. Exactly similar to your numbers and text. Okay, you can also have queries for date. So if I want to check something like date, I can specify the date in single quotes here. So I have written select star from employee where hire date is 21 September. That is also possible. Next thing is if I want to get the list of employees between certain specific dates, I can specify with the help of in clause. If I want to get the list of employees with certain specific year, month, and day, then I have the extract function. So select star from employees where extract year from hire date. This is the keyword which we have to use to extract the year from the hire date and compare it. So year is a numeric value, month is a numeric value, day is a numeric value. That is why we are not specifying any single quotes here. We are just directly using it. Okay. So if you use this, it will give you the specific data for that specific date. Okay, so let me show you this also. So just select this, get data more. So here I select local host. In the advanced option, I type the SQL query. I click on OK. Yeah. As you can see in the hire date, we have only the 2002 year employees. So like this, you can specify a month, you can specify a day, you can get that specific information. So these all queries that I'm showing you are with respect to Oracle. For SQL Server, IBM DB2, any type of source that you select, some or the other deviation would be there, but majority of the statements would be like this only. Okay. Similar to what you do in your Power BI DAX, like you calculate maximum, minimum, average, sum, count. If you want to calculate like that, same thing I can do it here with the help of max function, minimum function, sum function, count function, like that. Okay. So, and I have the group by clause also here, of course. Okay, so in this case, if I want to write any specific query, then I can use this group by clause to create the entities and group it. So this is statement that you see here is exactly similar to your summarize function. So what you do in summarize is you write group by job ID, then comma, then you write new column called as max salary and specify the formula, then minimum salary and formula, sum of salary formula, and count and the formula. So that's what we are doing here. So it will give us the summarized output based on the job ID. So you can consider this as your basic group by. So if I go to get data more, I'll select Oracle. This is my query. I click on OK. You can see the job ID, the respective maximum salary, minimum salary, those type of things we can generate and we can load it. Okay, so this is how you write SQLs. Now, one important part is this was just the filtering part. Sometimes what you have to do is you have to combine two tables and you have to load the data. So similar option we have seen it in Power Query, which we call this as merge. So in databases we call it as join operation. Okay, so we have already seen this in terms of join operation. So join operation, I have already shown you how the join operation works. Okay, so in case of joins we had four types of joins: inner join, full join, left outer join, right outer join. So this one. So in case of this, we had already seen how the joins work. So this was that sheet. So if I have one table on the left hand side, one table on the right hand side, and if I want to join it, I need one common column on which I can combine the two tables. This combining this same table on the common columns or the data types is exactly similar to what you see in your active relationship. Okay. So like I said, in Oracle or in any database, there is no term called as active and inactive. In database, every relationship is active. So if you want to create or if you want to merge two tables based on common column, you have to write a join query on that column. So here the common column is empid, like that, and then based on that you write the joins. So these were the join outputs that we had seen earlier. Okay, so yeah. So these are the join outputs that we have seen. So the first is inner join, where we only consider the matching values. So from this column, we just search this value on the other side. And if there is a match, we write the combination. So in this case, we got three combinations, matching combinations. That is why it is called as inner join. An ideal, I would say the characteristics of inner join is you will see no column with null value. So that is your inner join. But problem with inner join is inner join misses on the data from the left hand side and right hand side. So if I include the data from the left hand side, then in that case, I have matching values plus I have the non-matching values from the left hand side. So if you take the non-matching values from the left hand side, you will miss out on the right hand side column. So that is why you have null, null, null here. So this is called as your left outer join. Exactly similar to this, if I include the data from right hand side, which is this 105 p.m., then in that case, the left hand side columns will be null. So this is called as right outer join. And if I want to include all the possible columns, then I have the combinations, which is called as full outer join. So these are the four options that we have seen as part of our merge queries. If I want to do the same thing with the help of databases, then I can write the join queries. Okay, so here I have written some join queries which we can use it directly. Okay, so here these are the queries that I have written as part of this case. So in this case, what I want to do is I want to combine two tables. Okay, one is employee, the other is departments. So in employee and departments, we already know we have two relationships. One is department ID underscore ID, and the second is called as the between manager ID and the employee ID. So if I want to create any query based on that, I can very easily create it. Okay, so let me show you that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to write one basic query on one single join. In SQL, there is no restriction as to how many joins you can write in a single query, but for basics, we'll just write one single query here. So I select the Oracle. Localhost import, and now I have to write the query. So I want to join the employee table with department table, and let's say I want to use the inner join. So in that case, I will just write the join keyword. So the keyword is join. So I'll just write select star from employees, join departments. Now in this case, I have to specify the join that exists between these two tables. So the join is between department ID. So I will have to write employees dot department underscore ID equal to departments dot department underscore ID. So this is my query. So when I click on this OK, it will perform the inner join. If I want to do left join, I have to specify left join here. If I want to do right join, I have to specify right here. If I want to join the full outer join, all I have to write is full. The word outer is optional here, so I can skip it as of now. Okay. For now, I will just do the join operation. If everything goes well, the query should work and I will get the total columns of employees plus total columns of departments in one single query. As you can see, these are your columns from employee table. Employee ID, first name, email, phone number, hire date, job ID, commission percent, manager ID, department ID, and see it from here. Department underscore ID 2, department name, manager underscore ID 2, and location. So these information, they are actually coming from the department table. So when you click on load, the data is loaded. Okay. So join is also one of the queries which is asked a lot in the interview. So always remember select star from, and then afterwards you can write your table 1 join table 2. Now join keyword will change if you have to do left, right, outer, those type of queries, and then afterwards on, and you have to specify which two columns are connected in that case. Okay, similar to this, if I want to get the two joins in the same query, for example, we already know that in employee table we have one join between employee department ID and department ID. Second join is between manager ID and the employee ID. If you remember carefully, yesterday I told you in the previous session that we are not able to get the data for the inactive relationship directly. So in that case, we had used the lookup value function to calculate those columns, right? At the same time, I have told you that the same thing is possible with the help of queries also in database. So in database, there is no active inactive. So I can write a query which can give me the details of manager's first name, last name at the same time. Okay, so let's try to write that query. So this time I will use both the relationships, that means active and inactive, which you see in Power BI. Okay. So the query that I want to write is I will write select star from employees. Now in here, instead of writing the employees.department ID and departments.department ID, I will create a variable or alias. So this is what we call it as alias. So you specify the alias name separated by space. So instead of writing employees.department ID, I can now directly write e.department ID. Okay, so that by that means you can actually reduce your query size and you can make less mistakes. Okay, so I'll here say employees E join departments D. So from here onwards, if I need employee column table, then I can use E. If I need department table columns, I will use D. Now here I have to specify the join. So I will say on E dot department underscore ID equal to D dot department underscore ID. Now this is the active relationship on which you can actually get the department name. So this asterisk represents the number of columns. So here asterisk means all the columns, but let's say if I want to get the selective columns, I can do it here also. So let's say I want to get the first name of employee. So I will write E dot first name. I want to get the last name of employee. So I'll write last underscore name. Okay, then I want to get E dot salary. So I'll write E dot salary. And from departments table, I just need department. So I'll just say D dot department underscore. So this query is actually going to give me the first name, last name, salary, and the department name from the employees and the department join table. Okay. Now, in the same case, in the same example, what I now want is I want the manager's first name and manager's last name. Now, if you remember, manager first name and manager last name is stored, but it is stored in the manager ID and employee ID relationship. So in order to get that, I have to again write one join. So in order to write join, I will say join employees E2. So here I have created another alias. So this alias employees, it is consumed in the department ID column. So it is always going, there is E dot first name and E dot last name. It is always going to give me the first name and last name of employee. So if I want to get the first name and last name of the manager, I have to use another table. So this is my E2 table, which is going to give me the employees, manager's first name and manager's last name. And in here I will specify the relationship. So the relationship that exists between this is E dot employee underscore ID, E2 dot employee underscore ID equal to D dot manager underscore ID. I can reuse the department table D table again, because it is not, I'm just fetching the department names from there, and this manager ID is not used in the existing relationship. That is why. So I just keep this, and in here I modify the query. Now in order to get the manager name, I will say E2 dot first underscore name, comma E2 dot last underscore. So these are your first name, last names from the other cases. And now I click on OK. If my query is correct and everything works fine, it will give us first name, last name of employee, salary of employee, and manager's first name and manager's last name. See. So this is your first name of employee, last name of employee, salary of employee, the department name of employee, and the head of each and every respective department. Okay. So in interviews, they usually ask you to write two join queries. They will give you the common columns. Always remember the relationship is between which column. Based on that, you write the on clause. Then you join the tables based on your join statements, and based on that, you write your queries. Clear with this? Any questions? This is how the queries are used in your Power BI connectors. Now I showed you for Oracle, for MS SQL Server, it is going to be the same. DB2, it is going to be the same. Some or the other variation will be there based on the databases, but pretty much the same query remains. Okay. So if someone is asking you in the interview, and if you write an Oracle query and he's expecting MS SQL query, to some extent the compatibility will be there. So I think they'll accept. Usually they accept that answer. Okay. Any questions here, guys, on the SQL? Anyone? Okay, moving on. So that was the database part, which we have just finished. And there is one more part which is remaining in the database, which is related to gateway, which we will cover tomorrow. So from database, we'll try to fetch the updates, and we'll try to create update the report automatically. That is what we are going to try tomorrow. Now the next thing that we will see in Power BI is the what if parameter. So this is what we call it as what if parameter. Okay. Sometimes you might have observed that when you try to create certain formulas, the input to that formula might be changing, and that might be changing in a certain specific range. So in that case, what you want to do is you want to change the value, and accordingly your measure should also change. So in that case, what you can do is you can create a what if parameter. Okay. So what if parameter is a parameter which is actually used to change the variable or the measure value. Okay. So you can actually use this to create calculators which are needed sometimes in your reports, so that your report shows the updated numbers or the measure value according to the values. Okay. An example of it, I'll just create it. So let's say I want to create a report in which I want to create the simple interest calculator. So in the simple interest calculator, I will select principal amount. I will select the number of years, and I will select the rate of interest, and based on that, this calculated measure should always show me the simple interest. Now I can calculate this measure directly, but from the tables also. But problem with tables is I will have only certain fixed range of values which I cannot change in the future. So in that case, what I will do is I will create what if parameters. So since I want to create a calculator for the simple interest, and simple interest requires three inputs: principal amount, rate of interest, and number of years. So I will create three what if parameters. Okay, so let me click here. So this is how you create a parameter. So I'll just say principal amount. This is my parameter. It will be always a whole number. The minimum value, I will just fix it at 1 lakh. Maximum value, I'll just fix it at 20 lakhs. Okay. And increment, I will fix it at 1 lakh. Let's fix it at 50 lakhs, 50,000. Yeah. So this is my what if parameter which I'm creating. So this parameter will vary from 1 lakh to 20 lakh. Okay. The default value, I will make it as 1 lakh here and add slicer to this page. That's it. So a slicer is added, which will have the in between slicer. Okay. So minimum value of that slicer is 1 lakh. Maximum value of that slicer is the 20 lakhs, and it will always point to the default section. Okay. You can see the slicer created here. Okay, let's keep it as is as of now. This is my slicer, and just format it. Slicer header is on, border on, title on, then background color. Yeah, done. Similar to this, I will create a new parameter for my simple for a number of years. So number of years. In here, I'll say the number of years is whole years. The minimum value of number of years is 5. Default value is also 5. Maximum it can be 25 years. And I will increase this duration by 5. So I'll create another slicer. You can see as I create what if parameter on the right hand side, a table is created. Within that table, you have your measure and your value. Okay, so your slicer and your value is actually created here. See, this is the number of years what if parameter and the number of year value, which is actually storing the default value here. So this is your second number of years, and the third one is your interest rate. Okay, so interest rate here, I will say it is always going to be a decimal number. So interest rate usually is from 8 to at max 15%, and the increment is between 0.5. The default value, let's give it as 8.5. Yeah. Okay. So again, another slicer will be created and another table will be created, which will have the what if parameter and the measure value. So these are my three slicers. Let me format them. So home, select this, format painter, and format painter. Done. Now, let's say I want to calculate a measure which is principal amount into number of years into interest rate. So this case, every parameter that I have created has this value stored in this measure: interest rate, number of years, and principal amount. So let me create a measure here. So this is my new measure. So new measure name is simple interest. Simple interest formula is divide PNR by 100. So I will say principal amount. This is my principal amount into rate of interest. Then number of years. This is my first value, comma 100. This is the second value by which I want to divide it. Done. So this is my simple interest. So let me show you this simple interest in the card. So this is my simple interest. So in order to calculate the simple interest, it will take the default value. Okay. So the default value that you had specified earlier, that is, it is taking as the measure here. So yeah, this is how your what if parameter is used. Now you have designed a calculator which can give you the simple interest based on the values that you select. For example, I change principal amount here. I change number of years here. And I change the interest rate here. See, based on my value, automatically the simple interest measure is changing and it is giving me the simple interest value. Okay, so based like this, if you want to change any measure based on the input and that input is going to be provided by customer, then you can create these slicers. You can put those slicers here in the measures and you can use them. Okay, so like these type of calculators can be actually designed and used in your report. Clear with this? Any questions? Anyone? Okay, so now almost all of the topics were related to Power BI are done. Only one topic is remaining, which is gateway. So I'll just give you the glimpse of the gateway, how and why we are designing the gateway. Okay, and we'll actually see the gateway tomorrow. Okay. Yeah. So usually what we do is we take one database, then in that, from that database, we report or we prepare our report in Power BI service. Yeah. So what happens is when you have a live database source, what you do is you take the data from the database and you put the data in Power BI desktop, and then you prepare your report. Once your report is ready, you upload your report to Power BI service. But after uploading the report to Power BI service, what happens is this database connectivity is unreachable for this report which is present on Power BI service. So your Power BI desktop report can be updated, but your Power BI service report cannot be updated. So one longer way of, or one manual way of doing it is every day you open your Power BI desktop report like this. Say for example, you click on this refresh icon all the report contents are updated, then you upload your report from Power BI desktop to Power BI service every day. So this is what we call it as the manual way of refreshing the report for your Power BI service. So in order to avoid this manual refreshing of a report, okay, we can use another way, which is called as gateway. Okay, we do not use this manual refresh way if the report frequency is too high. That means if your client wants like daily updates, if your client is expecting every 15 minutes, every 3 hours the updates, then in that case this approach may not work, because if the person misses the refreshing time or the refreshing and uploading, then in that case the customer doesn't see the updated things. So for that reason, what we do is we implement a middle component, which we call it as the gateway. Okay, so gateway is something which will come like this in the between. Okay, and this gateway will be actually used to connect your report with your data set. So in this case, what we will do is we will connect this with this. Okay, so your gateway will be connected to database, and then your gateway will connect it to your Power BI service. Okay, so in this case, we will not be needing this connectivity. Okay, so this connectivity will not be used then. Okay, okay, and directly this connectivity will be used. So we will go all the way from here to here just to update our data. Okay, this is how the communication will happen. And once this is configured, the entire process becomes automated. That means your report will be automatically refreshed every day based on the frequency that you have specified. So that is the use case of the gateway, to update the data from the databases. Clear with this? Any question, anyone?
No, sir.
Yeah, so this is what we are going to implement tomorrow. I'm going to create a live database. So that database is going to be on the cloud. So this is something which I will implement it for you. So in this case, I will create that live database. I will put some data. We will prepare a report in Power BI service. Once that report is ready in Power BI survey, Power BI desktop, I will upload that report from Power BI desktop to Power BI service. Once that report is uploaded to Power BI service, then I will install or configure the gateway, and then I will connect the gateway to database. Once the gateway is connected to database, then I will connect the gateway to the report. And once we have connected, we will schedule the refresh, and automatically the report will be refreshed. We will not do it manually. Okay, so that is what we are going to see tomorrow. That is going to be the last session of your training. Okay, so this is what we will discuss tomorrow.
So, what about the dumps for DA?
Okay, I'll send it to you right away. Okay, you'll
Yep.
receive one mail just now.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll do. You have received the notes mail or anything? Notes mail, recordings mail. Recordings you have it, right?
Yes, recording. I didn't have any notes, and the link is also not shared. You said that the one link for your drive.
The solutions link.
Yes, that is also not received.
Okay, let me just share all these things today. You will receive a lot of mails from Google Drive today. So open that link and download those contents. Okay, I'm going to
Okay.
share it right away. I'm going to add your email IDs to that link. So you'll get links. You will get the mails from Google Drive. Okay, so
Okay.
just download those mails for me.
Sir, please share interview questions also.
Yeah, yeah.
Interview questions.
Yes, yes.
And sample resumes also for non-technical background.
So, Atul, for sample resumes now, you don't start working on it as of now, because once these sessions are over, the Power BI session is over, you will have SQL sessions. Okay. So that sir is actually going to help you with your resume. So he is going to answer all your questions. He is going to provide you sample resumes, and he is going to review it also for you.
Okay.
Okay. So resume part, keep it pending. Do it in the SQL sessions. Okay. The other part, I'll send it to you. Everything, every notes, anything that I have with respect to notes, I will share it with you guys. Okay.
Sir, SSIS and SSRS also cover in SQL part.
No, 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 no. See, SSIS and SSRS are two different things. SSRS is the SQL Server Reporting Services, which is a BI tool. Okay. So that prepares, that is actually used for the, I would say, tabular report preparation. okay, which is not used any much nowadays. The second part which you said, SSIS itself is a ETL tool, which is itself a huge topic, okay. So that is also not covered. What we are covering as part of your SQL training is the basic SQLs which you will be needing as part of your interview. In interview, what they do is they ask you whether you know SQL or not. If you answer yes, then they tell you to rate yourself on the SQL. After that, they'll give you queries on joins, they will give you queries on group by, they will give you queries on rank, they will give you queries on filtering. Those queries you have to answer it, okay. And if they feel convinced, then that's how the interview goes, okay. So at least 2 to 3 questions you can expect in terms of databases. In terms of SSIS, SSRS, they are not going to ask you much, okay. You can say that yes, you had knowledge, you have knowledge like what is SSIS. The person will tell you what is SSIS and SSAS and SSRS, but he will not train you actually on that, okay. He can give you some heads up like where to use it, what to use it, how to answer those questions, but he'll not teach you that, okay, Atul, because that is itself a different technology which takes 2 to 3 months, okay.
Because most of JDs are mentioned that SSRS and SSIS knowledge is
No, not most of the JDs mentioned. Some of the JDs are mentioned because right now, I mean, in last month only three of my students are placed. They are placed totally based off out of Power BI knowledge. Okay, nobody is asking me the SSIS, SSRS. I mean, at least one of my two students are placed in TCS the last month. One student is placed in some Mumbai company. So there also they were not asking about any SSIS, SSRS. Okay, the questions are mostly going to be, Atul, on the SQL part and Power BI part. So prepare very hard on those questions, okay. Be very clear about when to use what type of function, where which thing is present, those type of things. That would help you the most, okay.
and regarding data warehousing question of in interview.
Yeah, they are going to ask you the theoretical questions like what is star schema, what is snowflake schema. So I'm going to tell you that tomorrow, what is star schema, what is snowflake schema, what is the difference between them. That is the bare minimum thing that they're going to ask you, okay. So prepare that. These are all theoretical questions, Atul, which they will ask you. You should be able to answer it, okay. That is covered in the interview questions and the study guide, okay.
Okay. No.
Yeah. So I'm going to share some mails, guys. So download all these contents on your local machine and start studying. Okay. Okay, guys. So thank you for attending this session. Tomorrow is the last session. We'll see. Okay. Thank you so much for joining. Good night.
Good night.